So are you looking to unlock some secrets to unlock the financial well-being of your clients as well? Because this is a very interesting conversation, and financial well-being, as you'll hear today, has got a significant impact on a lot of things for our clients. And for us as financial advisors and planners, I think there's really all these questions around how can I do this? And how can I help them unlock this? So today, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to explore the power of combining behavioral science and goals-based financial planning to help your clients achieve their financial goals. We're going to discuss the factors that influence financial behavior, the benefits of goals-based planning, as well as the effectiveness of outcomes-based investing. So my question to you is, are you ready? So here we go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. What a beautiful day today. Again, we are blessed with such many beautiful days. Last week it was raining all the time, and even I think earlier this week, then about since Wednesday, it just became these most beautiful, bright sunshine days. Not that hot though, it's a little bit getting cooler. Pretoria has no idea what I'm talking about because they just go from hot to less hot to hot. They've got no idea about this. But here in Joburg and elsewhere in the country, we do feel it when the temperatures drop. And really looking forward to winter. That's up ahead. So it's really one of my favorite seasons for some weird reason. But anyway, that's not what today is about. Today is about my guest, Marius van der Merwe, joining us today from Amity Investment Solutions. So happy to have Marius back. And today we're really going to get into this conversation about financial well-being and the impact of that on a lot of things. We're going to look at behavioral science, goals-based financial planning, as well as outcomes-based investing, and how all of these things together can help your client live the life that they really seek to live. So excited for today's episode, and thank you to Amity Investment Solutions for sponsoring the month of May for Propulsion Live. So really appreciate that, and it's a privilege to have them on board. So what else is happening today? I have Nikki from the Financial Planning Institute, Nikki McDonald, and she's going to share all the latest news with us. I think there's lots to talk about. And then Norma is back today with the power of a positive mindset, something that I absolutely believe in. And I know people like Kobus are like forever talking about positive mindsets. And there's loads of people in the community that's the thing. That's the thing that we hold on to. That's the thing that helps us move forward, when things get tough. So that positive mindset, looking forward to that conversation with Norma this morning. And then just one announcement, actually, and then we get into the feature topic. And then remember the coffee draw right at the end, fresh coffee. Tanya posted a phenomenal video on LinkedIn. It took she won on Friday, and on Tuesday she already got the coffee. It's amazing how quick Colombo Coffee is. So thank you to Colombo Coffee for that. And then today, if you want to participate, you want to be in the lucky draw, it's already open. #GFPC23. So for Global Financial Planning Conference 2023. So GFPC, #GFPC23. Add that to any of your comments. Participate in the conversation, and you might just walk away with fantastic coffee. Anyway, so let me say a quick good morning to everyone who is here live. Thank you very much. If you're watching the recording, thank you very much as well. So who have we got? First in the house was Mr. Terence. Now, Terence and I have got something up our sleeves, literally, I think. Which we'll tell you about somewhere in June, probably. But he made a phenomenal suggestion, and I said I'm in. So let's see what happens. Mark Weston Fort, my friend, hope you're doing well. Good morning, Kobus. Hope it's going well there by you. We've got Johan Basson. Good morning, Johan. Barry, good morning. Nice to see you. Nantes, good morning. Goeiemorgen. We've got Charmaine. Good morning. Rihanna, good morning. Martina, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Neil Phillips, good morning. There's Charmaine. Harry, good morning to all you awesome peeps. Yes, peeps. I was in Pretoria last night. I should have told you about that. So obviously I just awoke like 2 minutes ago. Anyway, Adrian, good morning. Jonita, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Francis, good morning. Nice to see you. Razan, good morning. Awesome stuff. We've got Gary Wilson. Been a while, Gary. Good morning. Cecilia, goeiemorgen. Nice to see you. Kevin, over in Malaysia. Am I right, Kevin? Like, that's where you are. So warm welcome. Awesome to always engage with you on social and have you join us. So thank you very much. And then we've got Neil down in Cape Town in a world of his own. And there you go. So it's just 23, Neil. Go do that again. Hashtag GFPC23. Leave the 20 out of it. Just 23. Like that. Right. So there Johanna's got it. Righty. Good morning, Yaku. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the show. Let's get the show on the road. Marius and I have got loads to talk about. And but first off, here's Nikki with the latest of what's happening in our beautiful profession.
Good morning, everybody. So let's get straight into this. The South African Revenue Service said on Thursday that it will be imposing stricter conditions on those seeking to register as VAT vendors after it noticed a concerning trend in suspicious activity. In the month of April specifically, SARS said it saw a significant spike that required it to conduct an urgent review of its registration processes. They believe large numbers of registrations for VAT are being conducted with an eye to committing fraud. So if you are involved in this space, the following will be implemented with immediate effect. All new applications for VAT registrations will be subjected to a more stringent registration process, which could include the requirement that the applicant have to present themselves in person to the branch closest to where the business enterprise is located for validation and accreditation. Where applicants are expected to visit a branch, the visits should be pre-booked on the website by clicking on the book an appointment icon. And all supporting documents will then have to be submitted at the branch that day. And the VAT registration will only be effected when SARS has satisfied itself that the application is lawful. So please, if you work in this area, avail yourself of this information because it can just cause a little bit of frustration if you really want to register for VAT, and it's you get all these hurdles put in place. So a very interesting study that I came across was done by the Financial Planning Association. So that is the equivalent of the FBI in Australia, together with a person called Janus Henderson. They found that financial advisors face significant challenges in growing their businesses. They said 46% of financial advisors say they are comfortable with their current growth rate, but only 12% strongly agree with that sentiment. So this research was done at the end of last year, and it gathered data on strategy, planning, execution, and intangibles, including circumstantial or psychological influences on advisor growth. And the results of this research was published in a white paper called 6 Keys to Growth for Today's Advisor. And I really think it's interesting. So go search for the paper and read it, because many of the things that the Australians are speaking about is very, very relevant to our financial advisors and financial planners in business as well. So they identified 6 critical factors for today's advisors who are looking to grow their businesses, including the following. The anatomy of a business plan really matters. Then the second one is that advisors know what they need to do to drive growth, but they don't always act on that knowledge. A third one that I found very interesting is that firms with teams grow faster than those firms without teams. One thing Francois has spoken about on this program over and over again was included in number 4, which is systems and processes form a strong foundation for growth. Then if number 5 says it's not enough to define your ideal client, you need to actively engage them. And number 6 is my favorite, mindset is the most powerful influence on growth prospects. It is an extremely interesting white paper. I think it's extremely relevant to South African planners. Please go have a look on the FBA's website. It is available there. Then the FSCA also published 2 documents overnight. The first is the final conduct standard regarding the investment in derivatives by pension funds. And the second is the final competency requirements for representatives in the crypto space. We gave feedback a while ago on both these papers, and this is now the final papers that were released. So go have a look at it. Specifically, the competency requirements for representative in the crypto space is very interesting, and there are some added CPD requirements for you should you be working in that space. And then just a last comment and something very exciting for FBI members. The FBI has partnered with Dr. Bradley Klontz and Charles Chaffin to make an international course in the psychology of financial planning available to South African professional members of the FBI at a little bit of a more affordable rate than you would pay if you did it through the US. This course is absolutely brilliant. It forms the basis of the new psychology of financial planning module that is included in the new global financial planning standards. It is available for our professional members. Please go to our website, www.fbi.co.za, look under events, and you will find it there. Thank you very much, Francois, and have a wonderful weekend.
Amazingness. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's funny how like I get flashbacks with this VAT registration process, because that's how it used to be. Like you had all of these things you had to go in, and then they wanted to come and visit your premises, and then they did away with that. And now we're going back. So it's such a shame because, it is quite an onerous process to get registered for VAT. And specifically when you reach, it's one thing when you want to, but when you have to, when you reach that R1 million cap, or cap rather, and you have to get registered, you're going to go through this pain. And I think it's an important thing to let our clients know about, specifically those business clients of ours that need to know this in advance. Thank you very much, Nikki. Really appreciate it. I just quickly want to show you the hashtag. It's hashtag GFPC23. I see there's quite a few 2023s in the comments. So those won't be entered automatically. So please make sure, just go comment again, hashtag GFPC23. Alrighty, with that, Norma, seeing that on that list, the power of a positive mindset, it's the most important thing when you want to grow your business. Let's hear what you have for us this morning.
Good morning. Glad to be back with my topic for today, which is the power of positive thinking. So I think if I ask you the question, the people you surround yourself with, maybe just think in the last week, how many people have you surrounded yourself with where you actually walk away from a conversation and you think to yourself, oh, thank goodness that's done. I think I want to be the type of person where people leave my meetings or conversations they have with me and they feel inspired and encouraged to actually go and just do anything, that they think anything is possible. So I think to have a positive mindset, we need to have positive thinking. So my version of what positive thinking is just to focus on on the outcomes that I desire and not spend any time on the things that I don't desire. And it doesn't mean that I ignore problems or I don't see obstacles or anticipate obstacles. It just means that, let's say, 90% of my time goes into what I desire and working on that, and working on opportunities and solutions, and only 10% goes into the seeing problems or anticipating obstacles. So yeah, it is our natural tendency to always be looking for what's wrong, what's not working, because that's how our brain is wired. We're always looking for what's wrong and what can hurt us so we can stay safe. But I also know this crowd, and I talk about it a lot, is that we know that our thoughts have so much power. And our thoughts create our reality. And we have circumstances and events and situations that happen in the world, and we give it power. It doesn't necessarily have the power. Our thoughts is the place where we have the power. So if any event happens in our life, we've put a frame around it. And whatever we frame is what the focus is going to be on the inside. And then that situation, we focus on that. And then we look at it from the perspective of faith or doubt? So if we look at it from the perspective of faith, we anticipate the outcome that we desire. And if we look at it from the perspective of doubt, we maybe get anxiety or overwhelm because we are thinking of maybe the worst case scenario or the outcome that we don't want. So think about it. If we anticipate an outcome that we desire, obviously we're going to move closer to that place. So we are going to be in a place where we brainstorm and we come up with ideas and new insights and see opportunities, and we go and do something to actually make that outcome our reality. And in the instance where we feel the doubt, that creates that anxiety for us, because we are expecting an outcome that I don't desire, or maybe that worst case scenario. And that is then natural for us to, just maybe be paralyzed and not wanting to do anything because I'm expecting the worst, so it's not going to help me doing anything. It's almost like that wait and see attitude. So this is a great example of the power of a positive thinking and a positive mindset. When we apply it to the exact same situation, there can be two outcomes depending on how we think about it. So obviously, it takes intention for us to be positive. We have to train ourselves, and we have to then, practice it on a consistent basis. Because if our default has been, and our habit has always been to be a person that think negatively, it's going to take intention for us to turn it around. But I think now that we know this, is once that negative thought comes up, immediately turn it around into something positive, and then focus on that positive instead of dwelling on what you don't want. And then while we have this intention, we are choosing to see the positive and to think positively. We can now, I think something that can help us is to use positive, high quality, powerful questions. And those questions are the ones that is majority of the time is, and in all cases really, it's going to give us an answer to a question that is desirable or is in our favor. So something like, for instance, how is this the best thing that can happen to me right now? Or how can I do this? Or how can I make it work? And all of those questions will give me a positive outcome or a positive answer, not necessarily a positive outcome, a positive answer so that I can work towards that outcome. And versus the questions that I ask myself, like, oh, why does this always happen to me? Or why can't I get this right? And obviously that's going to follow by something negative. So I've given you a little bit to think about today. So I want to be that person that leaves the conversation thinking, wow, that was inspiring. And I hope for you and your clients and for your future growth, think about this positive thinking, because it leads to positive mindset. Great. That's what I have for you today. Thank you. I'll be back next week.
Sure, on fire, Norma. Thank you very much. That was amazing. Really enjoyed that. And with that, let's get to the quick announcements so we can get it over quickly so I can talk to Marius, because I'm really looking forward to this morning's conversation. All right. Nice one. So what do we have to talk about today? Well, first off is obviously, where is that now? Here we go. Colombo Coffee. Thank you very much for sponsoring the Lucky Draw giveaway this morning. And if you've never been here before, I see there's quite a few new names. Thank you very much for joining us. So you can win a coffee at the end of today's show. We do a live draw right here on the show. All you need to do is comment the hashtag GFPC23. Anywhere in the comments, you can add it to a comment that you make, or you can post it on its own, doesn't matter. But then you go into a lucky draw, and you can see we already have, how many? I can't see there. It's too small, 10 entries so far. So we've got over 30 people on the call. So if you want to enter, hashtag GFPC23, and we'll do the lucky draw at the end of the show. And with that, let's talk quickly about... Let me just remove that. So let's talk quickly about Global Financial Planning Conference. It's the only thing I'm talking about. It's the only thing I'm thinking about. It's the only thing I'm living and breathing and eating and drinking as well, I guess, is Global Financial Planning Conference. This is what you can expect. Amazingness. Link down in the description if you want to go get your ticket. Tickets are 349 Rand. You get access to that. There is 12 technical CPD points up for grabs, which you'll earn on this side of the cycle. And then you also, as part of 349 Rand, get access to the day of CPD that happens in July. And then you can earn more CPD points in the new cycle. So all of that for basically 350 Rand. There's no way in hell you're going to get that anywhere else. It's not about the CPD. You know how I feel about that, but I also know that you do need it. So it's a bonus on top of the amazing program. I'm not going to get into this. We've spoken about this a billion times, what this is about, where this comes from. 3rd year running in South Africa, so don't miss it. Please join us and go get your ticket down below. Down. I'm going to send more messages and more emails if you haven't gotten your tickets yet. So I'm not going away until you buy your tickets. I'm just putting that out there. Righty, then just very quickly, if you do find a lot of value in what we do, please like this video, share, because the conversation today is going to be on fire. And then please subscribe so that you're notified when we do go live and when we do amazing new episodes like this. So we really need your help to grow this channel. We grow slowly but surely because we grow this community in the right way. And we're very proud of the community that we have. So we want to continue on that vein, but we also need your help to make our growth possible. So please do that. It's just a click. It costs no money. So please go and do that. So then before I get into my conversation with Marius, which I'm very excited about, and you'll see that he has an amazing look and feel as well. I was so impressed when I saw this morning. So he said, well, we had a small upgrade. I said, that's not a small upgrade. That's a massive upgrade. Before we go there, let's have a word from our amazing sponsor, Amity Investment Solutions. Marius, welcome back to Propulsion Live this morning. Nice to have you back.
Thanks, Francois. Good morning to you and to the viewers. And thanks for the opportunity to share some thoughts with you. I hope it will stimulate some thinking and hopefully even some discussion maybe.
Absolutely. And I think that's what this is all about. Is like we want you guys to participate in the conversation, share your views in the comments, talk to us, ask questions, because we can really field those while we are busy talking and maybe answer some of those questions during this conversation. So please participate and join us on this amazing topic this morning. So just for those of you that maybe missed Marius last time, he is the CEO of Amity Investment Solutions. And Amity Investments, as you saw in the intros and the ad we just played just before this, is that they really look at trying to reduce uncertainty through outcomes-based investing. And it's really a different way of thinking. And today I really want to unpack this a little bit more with Marius. And when we sort of prepared for this, I was like, this is going to be an on-fire episode today. So really looking forward. Marius, let's get straight into it. And I want to sort of set the scene with this because I think often in our businesses and our practices, you know, we try and measure a lot of things. And we typically measure the money side of things. And I did speak about some other measures the other day. But we talk about things, or we look at things like, oh, what investment growth did we get for our clients, you know, and you know, do we keep our clients, and you know, does the business grow? And there's all these things that we really look at from that perspective. But I think the one thing that's really missing is the thing around measuring the success of the advice that we give and the advice that our clients eventually then implement. And I guess my first question to Marius is, how do we measure the success of advice?
Yeah, Francois, I think you're right. You know, when one hears that question, some of the first things that may come to mind is, you know, the income my FSP generates, or the number of new clients I get, the fact that I don't lose clients. Now, these are without any question indicators that the advisor is doing something right. But advisors should also have some measure of the success, not of the FSP, but of the difference that the advice that they deliver make. And we can ask ourselves, has the fact that the funds I recommended to my client outperforming their peers, or, the standard deviation of their portfolio, the fact that it was less than some other relative benchmark, has that really changed my client's life in any way? So although these factors are important from an investment management perspective, that is not what clients value when it comes to advice. Ultimately, the measure of success should be how the advice proposition of the FSP or the advisor has changed the client's life. That should be the measure of success.
And I think it's a very practical thing. And I guess some of the things like I say, how do we do that? But I mean, just coming back to this thing, because I remember way back, Marius, I was at one of the corporates, and they did a very interesting study where they gave a survey to the same survey, same question, same everything, no difference, to an audience of advisors and an audience of clients. And those insights that came back from that was very, very interesting. Now, I know that you also had sight of some recent surveys that asked clients about what is it that they really want from the investment advisor or the wealth manager or the financial planner or whoever is helping them with their managing their wealth and such. What do they want according to those surveys?
Yeah, these surveys are done regularly by organizations like the CFA Institute, Vanguard, all these big asset managers, etc. And it's interesting to see that there's a discrepancy often in what advisors think their clients value and what clients say they value when it comes to financial advice. So when asked what they expect from financial advice, clients mentioned, firstly, I want advice that empowers me to have a life well lived. Now, this is a very interesting, idea, because firstly, what has this to do with financial planning? I mean, nowhere does it talk about the money. And two key things that stand out for me here is, firstly, they talk about empowers me, which means it's advice. I don't want advice. I want to be equipped to be able to manage my money better, and in a way that secondly help me to live this have this life well lived. The second thing is they want advice that helps me achieve my goals with tailored solutions, which is quite interesting as well. Some of the words that they used when they described tailored solutions was, I want to understand the context of why you recommend this portfolio or this product or whatever, in terms of how it's going to help me achieve my goals. Why is this appropriate for me? They said, I want advice that helps me make better financial decisions, which basically links up with empowerment. I want advice that will protect my portfolio. Quite interestingly, the first focus is not growing my portfolio, but safety, feeling secure. And then they said they want advice that gives me control. So those are key things that they've mentioned. So I want an advisor I can trust, was also another one that came to the fore. Now, if this is what clients say they want and value most from financial advice, then we should review our value proposition, our financial planning philosophy, and the processes that we follow to ensure we deliver these value elements.
It's so important, Marius. And I guess then my next question is, like, if we need to review, like, how do we connect all these dots? If we start thinking about this is what clients want, this is what, and that's why I sort of started off with that other survey that I had sight of many, many years ago, where the answers to the same questions was that there was such a divide between, and you can see it's almost maybe a knowledge gap also between clients. But ultimately, like, we try and do this, and then we wonder why clients are not taking action. And it's probably because this is what they want. This is what we know they should want. But then we try and convince them of this first, probably. But how do we connect all these dots to make it work?
Yeah, the focus should shift, from this asset allocation, or are these the best, or these rather are the best funds, to how can I influence my clients' financial behavior to enable them to live their ideal life. Now, that's why I believe that the purpose of financial planning should be to deliver financial well-being as opposed to only focusing on the financial outcomes. So the ultimate state of being is what psychologists call flourishing. So financial advice can play a critical role in helping clients to flourish. Research shows that financial well-being is one of the most important factors for overall well-being. And the financial domain has a direct impact on the other 5 life domains, which are deemed to be important for overall well-being. People with financial well-being are, for instance, healthier than people that don't have financial well-being. They are able to cope better when health issues arise. It even goes as far as some research showing that they have a stronger immune system compared to people that don't experience financial well-being. Financial issues is also responsible for as much as 40% of divorces in the US, as an example, and is often the cause of conflict in marriages. So it has a major impact on relationships. We know the saying that money makes money. Well, it turns out people who experience financial well-being earn higher income and build more wealth. So that is why I'm of the opinion that the value proposition of financial planners should be enabling financial well-being. To enable financial well-being, financial planning must deliver 4 things. The first one is our advice needs to help the client to get control of their financial affairs. So the first dimension is in the current space, managing my money, to be able to pay my bills, to have that feel in control. The one thing that people don't like is uncertainty, to feel out of control. So if we can start off by giving them that element, we are in the right direction of delivering financial well-being. The second element to financial well-being is to ensure that they experience peace of mind. So the security element of the advice, whether it's through, medical aid, or they have insurance in place, or they have access to capital in times of need, or things like this. We need our financial planning to address that element. Thirdly, we need to enable them to enjoy the money they have. So, it's not just about saving for the future. We also want to experience the joy of life in the current, in today. So from that perspective, it's about, being able to spend money on, taking my kid to Wimpy or whatever the case may be, without, feeling that I'm going to break the bank. And then the last element that our financial planning needs to address is to give them hope for the future, setting goals and which pulls them forward and create that hope for the future.
Yeah, it's such, amazing practical things almost in my mind. I guess it's almost like, always, I think that things would start off with, and some of the things that we contend with a lot, and probably the thing that has one of the biggest impacts on the success of any of these things is probably client behavior. And I don't know if you agree with that, Marius, but behavior is definitely something that is a good indicator maybe of where things might end up. And sometimes behavior supports us, and sometimes, we need to work with clients to change that behavior as well, which makes it challenging in many cases, but also very rewarding when we can help people in that sense. So my question to you is, we all know, for example, I'll always use this example, I know I need to go to gym. Why don't I go to gym, Marius? Even if I know what the right thing is to do, why don't I do the right thing?
Well, we know that people are not rational. If they were, we would have had a lot more gyms and a fewer fast food outlets, I suppose. So there is a clear dislocation between what we should do and what we actually do. So there can be no argument about the defining role that behavior plays in the financial success of a client. The challenge we have is that responsible financial behavior does not come naturally to us as humans. Dr. Brad Klontz, which I think Nikki spoke about, a money psychologist in the US, makes the point that humans are not wired for the rules of modern money management. our ancestors used to hunt for their food and to survive, and then they would eat their food, and whatever was left they had to share with the tribe so that they have the protection of the tribe, and so that the tribe would, share with them tomorrow when they have food and things like that. So our delayed gratification, therefore, goes against our DNA. So that would be the reason why we work against the rational behavior.
And then what factors influences this? If I bring it back specifically to our behavior with regards to our finances, what are some of the factors that influence what we do or what we don't do?
Yeah, it's interesting if you study financial well-being and what are the constructs, the conceptual models that they propose, and the research behind that shows, interestingly, our financial behaviors is influenced by factors like our money traits, our personality traits rather, to start off with, our culture, our money experience, just to name a few. So as an example, research found that when we look at personal traits, there are three key ones that stand out that has a direct influence, for instance, on your financial well-being. The first one being locus of control. So locus of control talks to you either have an internal locus of control or you have an external locus of control. Internal locus of control means I believe that I have an influence on the outcome of my life, that I can actually make changes that can change my life and so on. Whereas an external locus of control looks at how the world sort of impacts me and I don't have any control over it. So locus of control, people with an external locus of control tend to experience financial well-being more. Second personality trait would be time orientation. People with a short-term time orientation, for instance, will tend to spend money easy, and they are not as sort of attuned to building wealth. Whereas people with a longer-term mindset, for instance, typically builds more wealth over time. And then self-control. So people that are not impulsive in how they spend or things like that. Those are key personality traits that will influence behavior. Added to this is the role of culture. So how success is measured in a culture, for instance, whether the culture is individualistic or a group-orientated, and then also how, the element of materialism. All of those things influences the perception and ultimately our financial behavior. Our money experience also has an influence on your money decisions and actions, as it shapes our beliefs and our attitudes about money. So our financial capability, our financial literacy, and all of these things. It's interesting if you look at financial literacy as an example. There's a lot of research that shows it actually has a very small impact on changing behavior. And the reason for it is because we don't address the mindset first. We don't create the right motivators for the client when we do financial literacy. So as you mentioned earlier, you know what you should do. So just knowing what inflation is and compounding and I should save and all these rules doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do it. And the reason for that is often because that financial education that we do does not happen in the space where the client is ready to receive it and does not address necessarily the right motivators.
Yeah, so these are some very powerful things, Marius. And then how can we use these behaviors to our advantage and to help us improve our financial well-being? I think I started off by saying, it's like habits, behavior, those things are that's actually the thing that makes the results happen. But how do we then take all of these things that we know and then use them, and sort of take that behavior and sort of point it in the direction that's going to help us improve our financial well-being specifically?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that financial well-being is not just about how much we have. It's also about our perception of how much we have. Now, this could be of great value from an advice perspective. If the planning process can help to shape a positive perception of the client's financial circumstances, it could go a long way in preventing the adverse effects of bad financial behavior. So before I answer the question, I would like to mention the difference between cognitive and emotional biases, which most would know about. So cognitive biases are more information processing or memory errors that we make as human beings. And that causes our decisions to deviate from rationality. Now, these biases, which include things like confirmation bias or mental accounting or things like this, could actually be corrected through financial planning interventions, like educating the client, etc. So how we frame returns, for instance, show what as an example, show what the long-term return profile is like, rather than anchoring the client in returns of the recent past. Or we can, for instance, show what the consequence of the recent market correction is on the life of the client, how it's going to impact the standard of living, etc. The second category of biases is emotional. Now, emotional is a mental state which arises spontaneously through, rather than through conscious processing. So emotions arise from internal beliefs, our perceptions, our feelings, and these are not easy to correct and may require the advisor actually to adapt the financial plan to accommodate these emotional biases. There's, for instance, a view that when a client is more emotionally driven, that advisors need to be very careful not to expose the client to too much volatility, for instance. So the kind of portfolio that you adapt, it's like you adapt to the risk tolerance rather than to what the client actually needs to achieve their goals. Whereas if it's a cognitive type of bias, then you can actually educate the client, train them, etc. So understanding these things could go a long way to help us change it. So where these, so that would be key to it. Then, things like loss aversion, regret aversion, all of these would be typical examples of emotional biases. So to come back to your question about how do advisors use behavior to facilitate financial well-being, I want to use my own behavior as an example. You mentioned earlier about going to gym, etc. Now, I sometimes laugh at myself and how stupid I can be, only sometimes. I will move heaven and earth to get to the gym, just to ensure that I reach my weekly goal. It even influences what exercise I do, depending on how many points I still need for that week. It has nothing to do with responsible, healthy behavior and everything to do with me not wanting to miss the goal. The result is good, healthy behavior. So advisors therefore need to adapt their financial planning process to tap into what motivates people and then influence, in that way, influence behavior. But to do this, we first need to expand our client discovery process to develop sort of their money biography. What Brad Klontz talks about, money scripts and things like that, for instance. So we need a better understanding of what motivates them and how they make decisions, because this will drive their behavior. That is why value-based planning, for instance, could be very valuable, since it taps into what clients deem to be important to them. This in turn can help to get more engagement by creating goals that are more personal instead of these generic financial goals. To use an example, if a decision is between saving or a Starbucks cappuccino, chances are the capo will win every time. But if it's a decision between the capo or sending Liam, my son, to varsity, I may think twice. So connecting wealth to life changes the motivation for following and then sticking to the plan. We also need to be what Professor Mike Stetman calls a client's financial physician, as an example. We need to provide our clients with a regular financial health check. Our annual reviews need to reflect the progress the client has made and what the consequences are of their current financial position on the long-term sustainability of their current and desired lifestyle. Mitch Anthony says we should not have a review meeting, we should rather have a preview meeting. So when it comes to investment planning, we also need to incorporate behavioral profiling as opposed to just determining risk tolerance, for instance. We need to understand the client's investment archetype, which, what kind of biases do they have, and how can that influence their behavior over time. That is why we at Amity, as an example, are developing a behavioral profiling tool, which will include risk perception, risk preference, risk composure, financial behavior, and then key personality factors to enable advisors to really sort of hone into, what is this client's investment archetype. These are just a few ways that we believe that financial planning processes can be enhanced. And that is why we focus our research and development on these things.
Yeah, and it's powerful stuff again. Like I know I said that word a few, like every time you say something like that's powerful and that's practical and that's because it just simply is. But I want to, like you mentioned something about values-based planning earlier, Marius, and there's all these different types of planning. So there's values-based planning, and there's people who are very passionate about that. And then there's lifestyle financial planning, and people who are very passionate about that. And then there's goals-based financial planning, which there's a lot of people who's very passionate about that. And then there's people who are very passionate just about good old-fashioned traditional financial planning. And I guess the big question is, are these things different? But specifically from a goals-based planning perspective, maybe let's talk about that. And I guess there's sort of two questions I want to ask you in once, just for sake of time. Is the one is which question, all the questions or the client can ask, which question is more important to the client? And then maybe just together with that, how is goals-based financial planning different from traditional financial planning?
Okay, so to start off with, I don't think it's a choice between any of these styles. I think it is how do we use all these different styles or, planning propositions or approaches to enhance our process. So advisors need to build their process around whatever they want to bring in. But I think to answer the question, the primary question the client may have is, how can I achieve my major life goals with some degree of certainty? That is more important to the client than how can I get better returns. Money is seldom an end in itself. More often than not, it is a means to an end, because a goal-based approach focuses on the lifestyle and the events and the experiences, etc. It means we tap into the fears and dreams of the client. And these are the emotional drivers that motivates and influences clients' decisions. So it moves the focus from the money to what the money is for. And this changes the reference point for success and ultimately influences the financial behavior. So goals-based is different. The first difference is in terms of how it defines success. So goal-based approach, if you look at a conventional planning approach, it offers focuses on defining success in terms of the required return and whether we achieve that, the product needed to get the return, whereas a goals-based approach defines success in terms of goal progress and goal achievement. It changes the conversations from alphas and standard deviations to progress made in achieving the goal. It reports on the consequences of current financial positions, on the goals that need to be achieved and the actions that there needs to be taken to sort of correct that or adjust the client's planning jointly. So it makes the planning process more collaborative instead of placing the responsibility of the plan only on the advisor. Secondly, goals-based planning differs in terms of how risk is defined. So where the traditional planning approach defines risk in terms of volatility and standard deviation, a goals-based approach defines risk in terms of the probability of not achieving the goal. And then the third difference is goals-based approach is different in terms of how risk profiling is done. As I mentioned, the behavioral sciences have found that clients do not only have one risk profile. So this is the premise of a lot of our planning in the past. A client can be loss averse, they can be risk averse, and they can be risk seeking at the same time. It all depends on the goal and the importance and type of goal that we want to achieve. Is it an essential goal or is it an aspirational goal? So where the traditional approach is to do a single risk profile for a client once off, a goals-based approach would be a much broader type of risk profiling, and you will do risk profiling to determine the profile for specific goals, as an example.
Marius, yeah. So then also, if you think about all of those, and we think about, okay, so goals-based, we move from looking at the things that are happening to what we're achieving and the progress towards that, and how we view the different things we want to achieve and attain in different ways, and we feel differently about those things. Then surely as well, if we don't, yes, there's always things like required return and asset allocation, all these wonderful things because that's the engine that makes things happen. But the client doesn't care about that. But yet we've been talking about that in all the meetings. So how do we now look at that from a investment strategy point of view? And this is sort of where the outcomes-based investing part comes in, to say, well, how do we now sort out this misalignment between what we've been doing in the past, and how do we move from we need to achieve this and invest in that portfolio and have such an asset allocation, and here's your risk profile with our 3 questions. Kind of things. How do we move that to a more outcomes-based investing approach?
Yeah, Francois, advisors tell us, that some of the challenges that they experience is, so they follow this approach, they do the risk profiling, all of these things, the planning, and then ultimately they end up, sort of recommending the same type of portfolios to clients all the time. So that's one of the challenges that they experience. The second one is, how do they marry sort of the risk profile and the required portfolio requirement? Very often there's a misalignment between those things, as an example. They will tell us, we use these standard industry measures to measure portfolio performance, which ultimately forces us to compare the performance to some relative benchmark. And the client has no other reference point then. So they default into comparing their portfolio to some relative benchmark, whether it's money market or whatever. So the other problem that advisors tell us is they don't always know how to rebalance the portfolio, what kind of rules to use for that rebalancing. And I think that is where goals-based planning approach can be of great value, to provide a framework for capital sort of allocation and rebalancing, etc. So we need to focus on the goals, and what kind of portfolios needs to be in place or structured for that specific goal, or is appropriate for that specific goal. So private investors define success more in terms of absolute terms. Achieve a goal. Risk is not volatility, it's probability of not achieving the goals, etc. And that is where we find that very often the investment strategies, traditional investment strategies, are not aligned with these type of measures that clients typically use. They are, let's call it, very appropriate for institutional investing, but not necessarily for private investors. So an outcomes-based investment strategy is not built on the so-called modern portfolio theory only. So although that's the undertow, it's founded, or the foundation is those let's call it fundamental investment philosophies or strategies or principles. So modern portfolio theory, capital asset pricing, those kind of things. But the problem with these theoretical strategies is that it assumes that private investors want to optimize return for each unit of risk, the so-called rational investor or the utility theory. Now, this approach does not take into account the fact that goals actually differ in terms of importance, but also in terms of time horizons and risk profiles. So the traditional investment strategies have no specific time horizon, for instance, and therefore the sequence of returns are not as important. Whereas an outcomes-based investment philosophy is built on reducing uncertainty of a predefined range of outcomes over a specified investment term. So the focus is on maximizing the probability of achieving the outcome, and then also looking at the consistency of achieving that outcome over rolling investment periods. So instead of aiming to deliver the highest return given the prevailing market conditions and outcomes-based strategy is founded on what return can be delivered with the highest probability through different market cycles within a specific investment horizon.
Marius, so in like a minute, I'm going to put you a little bit under pressure. Is there proof that this works?
Yeah, it's interesting. We did a lot of research, taking the ASISA categories, for instance, over the last 15 plus years, and looking at when we measure them against these outcomes-based principles. So there are 4 pillars that we look at. So we look at what is the defined outcome that needs to be achieved. So when you do a financial plan and you have a specific return requirement to happen, what is that return that can be delivered? So the outcome. Secondly, how consistent is that return outcome? How actively do you manage risk? And lastly, can you preserve the capital over the investment term? So from that perspective, we looked at if we measure against those criteria. So just to qualify here, this is not to say that the investment industry is not, doing a good job. There are different rules that we use or different criteria that we use. That's all we're saying. So if we take the ASISA categories, and let's take, for argument's sake, the ASISA high equity category, and you look at it from a consistency of delivering CPI plus 5 over a rolling 7-year period, not even 5. So you would remember, or know rather, that most, high equity balance type of funds has a 5-year recommended investment horizon. If you look at a 7-year rolling period, the consistency of actually delivering CPI plus 5 is 32%. So now I do a financial plan for a client. I need to achieve CPI plus 5, and I have a probability of 32% of actually achieving it. So if you approach it from a different perspective and say, but this is important to get to this number, then you need to look at risk management much more actively. And what we found is that the asset allocation and having control over that is critical. And when you do that, you can actually enhance it to maybe 50 or 55 or 60%, dependent on the type of outcome that you want to achieve. So yes, I would argue there is proof that we can actually get to those better outcomes for clients. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Marius, last question. If people are interested to learn more about this, because obviously, in the conversation that like this, the best thing we can do is make you aware of all of these things. But if they want to learn more, they want to get deeper into this, where can they get more information?
Well, they can get our contact details on our website at amity.co.za. And there you'll find Tanya, which is our advisor experience manager, and you can give her a shout out, and she would contact you in a jiffy. Don't worry about that.
Fantastic. Marius, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for being a sponsor in May. And thank you for all the valuable information that you shared this morning. Really enjoyed chatting to you this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francois.
Alrighty, it's that time of the morning that we're going to do this draw for your coffee. And remember, right after this, I'll send you a quick video with a link. You fill it in. You say, how do I like my coffee? What coffee do I like? How do you need to send it to me? And within a few winks, you will have your coffee delivered straight to your door, just the way you like it and fresh as they come. So with that, I'm going to do the draw. And you see that we've got 11 entries at the moment in this. And the system is going to draw this automatically. So let's see who the lucky person is. You can only win once in 6 months. If you draw your name and you won before, then we're going to draw again. But here we go. So let's see who it will be this morning. I hope I can remember who all the people are that won, because we've given away so much already. So let's see. Cecilia, I know, Cecilia, you won. Like, how lucky can one person be? You already won. So sorry, Cecilia. Let's see if I can draw again. There we go. So we've got to draw again. The first time that has happened. Let's see who's going to win this time. There we go. And we have Heloise Strauss. Heloise, ek dink nie jy het al gewen nie, so baie geluk. As jy het, dat weet my, daar iets moet doen daan, maar ek twyfel. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for being here this morning. Really appreciate it. When you watch live and right to the end, it's amazing. So thank you very, very much. And next week, my guest is going to be Stephen Handley, and we're going to talk all about CRMs. So he's from Australia, from a company called Fin365. So I'm excited to get into this whole CRM conversation. My recent post on LinkedIn really got a lot of attention and things. So we're going to delve deep into that conversation next week. So before that, go have a fantastic weekend and a good week next week. See you at the Global Financial Planning Conference. Be safe, be blessed and prosper. And always, always raise the bar. Thank you for everything. Love you. Bye-bye.